Arkansas, Darius Acuff, and John Calipari. What do they all have in common? The same fatal flaw.
Welcome on into the AZ Wildcats podcast, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by our friends over at Circle K. It is I, your host, Damon Fairall, with my guy, Kevin Thomas, as always on the AZ Wildcats podcast. And of course, we are presented by our presenting sponsor of Branded Bills. Head on over to brandedbills.com. Use promo code BBPHNX and check out the best Arizona Wildcats headwear in the game, as well as if you have a small business for yourself, something that you want to get customized, no better spot to go to than over at brandedbills.com. Kevin Thomas, another day closer to another Arizona Wildcats March Madness game. The Cats, of course, set to take on 4-seed Arkansas in the West region. Arkansas, a team that is playing great basketball right now, a team that is hot, and a team whose coach is going on nationally syndicated radio and podcasts and having a lot to say about the upcoming matchup versus Arizona. We're going to break all of what John Calipari had to say down on McAfee right here in just a little bit. But Kevin, another day closer. How we feeling, man?
Feeling pretty good. I honestly, I was talking to, I believe it was Connor earlier, or maybe Espo. I was just like, man, I need this game to happen tonight. You know, I'm not starting to get nervous, but it's just the buildup. I'm like, man, can we just get out there? Or not me, maybe in particular. We would lose the game if you threw me out there. But can the boys just go out there and play the game so I can watch the game? We can talk about an Arizona Wildcats victory, hopefully, because this game, the anticipation is killing me. Arizona versus Arkansas, the amount of NBA talent on the court, I mean, it's unbelievable. You have Tommy Lloyd versus John Calipari, Sweet 16 glory on the line. First ever Elite Eight for Tommy Lloyd on the line. I mean, I think John Calipari's been to so many Elite Eight, he's forgot half of them. You know what I mean? Like Lil Wayne and forgetting his lyrics to his own songs. He's made so many. But yeah, Tommy Lloyd, one step away from his first ever Elite Eight. The stakes are huge. The opponent is really tough. So yeah, I'm excited for the challenge and to watch Arizona hopefully overcome said challenge. Damon, how are you feeling just a couple days out from Arizona versus Arkansas?
I was talking on Southwest Bias with Espo this morning, and he asked me the exact same question, Kevin, and my response was, I never feel good at this point in the tournament. I think that I can convince myself a first round matchup, no worry in the world. Felt great. Handed the keys to this vehicle that we call the AZ Wildcats podcast to Kevin, tossed him the keys, said, hey kid, you take her out for a spin. Okay. I'm gonna kick my feet up and relax a little bit. Second round comes along, right? And you play Utah State. I was on record saying, I think this team is way too damn good to lose to a 9 seed. I just don't see it happening. They haven't done so all year. And ultimately I was proven right. That being said, it got within a 3-point game in that second half. It was nervy. There was a time where I was like, oh my God, we really, really, truly could lose this basketball game. I think now once you get into the Sweet 16 and further, it's just every game is going to be an absolute war, an absolute battle. There are no easy outs left. There are no games that I truly feel in my heart of hearts that like Arizona is no question about it going to win from here on out. So because of that, I just like I'm a broken, scared Arizona Wildcat fan, Kevin. Like I wish I could say I was more along the lines of what you and Saul Bookman have been preaching all season long, and to which I've been, responding on the postgame show. Amen, brother. But at the same time, like I've been here way too long. I've experienced this way too much, and I've seen us lose to teams that are worse than us constantly. So yeah, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous. I'm going to be hella nervous on our pregame watch along postgame for that one. That watch along might literally just be me watching it like this the entire time, just through my hands. I mean, I want this bad.
No, yeah, I want it bad too. I hope the players want it just as bad as us, and we know that they do.
Yeah.
But
I think they might.
Yeah, I think they might want this one pretty bad, Damon. The legacy is certainly on the line for this team, and they could do something that maybe has not been done in quite some time. But we gotta get ahead of ourselves there a little bit. But Arkansas is up next, and like Damon said, we're gonna break all that down. John Calipari did stop by Pat McAfee this morning, said a bunch of stuff about a bunch of things, all of it mostly good. I'm not gonna say he said nothing crazy, but he did talk a lot and had some pretty interesting things to say. But before we get into that, before we get into what Arkansas's potential fatal flaw might be and some players to watch out for in this upcoming game, we have transfer portal news. Today, the transfer portal has officially opened, and if you listen to Jeff Goodman, well, it's been open for months. It's people have been DMing people for months, and I happen to know about it because I've been DMing people for months. Are you entering the portal? Yes? I will report on it. Yeah. So it's been open for a minute.
Surprise Goodman is going to get me every time, Kevin. I just when I don't see it coming, like there's never not going to be a time that I don't laugh at that impression.
No,
sorry.
Yeah. I mean, he literally tweeted that today, Damon. The portal has opened, but it's been open for months. It's like, all right, dude, we get it. You're DMing players and being like, "Are you in the portal? Is this team talking to you?"
Agents. That's sick, man. Cool. We get Congrats.
It, we genuinely get it. The portal, like people tamper. We understand. But the portal did officially open today. Now, there are some very interesting entries. We'll start here, right? Because obviously KJ Lewis, Jackson Shelstad in the portal. We're going to talk about those. Paulie M in the portal. Do you think he follows Randy Bennett to Tempe? Jervis already asking the question in the chat, but he is not alone. As soon as Paulie M put his name in the portal, everyone's saying Sun Devil. Do you think it's the same?
I do. And I think that, like Paulie M type of player that didn't really make an impact at Arizona, so probably feels a little bit less kind of tied to the Wildcats, tied to Tommy Lloyd, tied to the fan base. Even though I think the fan base has been, very happy for him since he's transferred. Like it feels like with him in Philly in particular, there's been like a little bit of like, all right, fellas. Like, nice.
I love seeing Philly b-ball.
18 points per game? Hell yeah. Right? And so, I think it would be a bit of a slap in the face as any former Wildcat transferring to ASU would be. But I doubt that like I said, I doubt he's really that tied to, his, 1 year at Arizona here. So I think, yeah, he probably will follow Bennett, and he probably would be dumb not to. No? A coach that has put him in a position to succeed, a coach that has developed his career and given him the playing time that he needed to become an impact type of college basketball player. And then, for a team that has a million shots available, all the usage in the world available. If Paulie M comes to the Big 12 and plays for ASU, he's hypothetically going to have the same role that he had at St. Mary's as, the primary offensive option or one of them. So I think, yeah, he probably will follow Bennett, and I think it would probably be a stupid move not to, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's the obvious move, to move up to the bigger conference, take a leap back to play against an Arizona team that you once played for. I also think it'd be a great get for Randy Bennett, right? Bring some continuity to your roster, bring a guy who has been able to succeed in his former conference, and so yeah, I think that is the obvious move. He does, though, Damon, immediately becomes one of the better players in the portal. There's a world where Arizona State does not land him.
True.
Could you see him going somewhere else for a bigger bag? Because I personally think he lands in Tempe, but I wouldn't rule out like one of the better players in the portal getting swooped up by a team that like needs a guy like him.
Yeah. No, I certainly think that that's a possibility as well. You got a guy who, like we said, averaged 18 plus points per game, and albeit in the WCC, but for a team that is a tournament team, a team that was not only a tournament team, but a 7 seed, like very clearly a tournament team, wasn't really up for doubt. I think, yeah, he's going to be a hot commodity. So it's possible that, he kind of prices ASU out, but I also think that ASU is the type of, program where, they're not swimming in cash 100%, but I have to assume that they could be able to compete with, like what a St. Mary's is currently paying a guy like Paulie M. And then Randy Bennett seems to me like the type of like system coach where his players should be kind of more locked in and drawn to what he's doing rather than, Bobby Hurley type of coach who's like kind of just like going to go after the big name recruits and less of a personality standpoint. Like it feels like to me what Randy Bennett does is much more structured and has much more of like a clear plan of attack. And because of that, I would think that his players would be drawn to him a bit more. But yeah, I think that they'll obviously face competition. He's a great player. Any player that's averaging 18 plus in college basketball is a really, really good player. So he'll be a hot commodity for sure. We got Aiden in here, who I believe is an ASU fan, just assuming based off of that comment. Can't wait to hate watch U of A versus Arkansas. And we can't wait to give you the ability to maybe hate watch us because your own basketball team stinks so bad that you have to tune into what we're doing every single March. So we appreciate you being here, Aiden. Thank you so much. Drop a like on this video. And of course, that goes for all ASU fans in the chat.
Yeah, and if Aiden is like an Arkansas fan or something, and you're just so upset that Arizona is the 1 seed or whatever, that you're hate watching your own team, that'd be even more unfortunate because they did follow up that comment saying Acuff giving y'all a belt. There's a world where Acuff gives Arizona a belt and goes home right after because he might get eliminated and still drop 40. That's just, he's that good. We're going to get into him later. There's going to be no Darius Acuff slander on this pod. We are too smart. He is far too good. And yeah, he could give us belt and we could still win the game. It would not be, the first time that a player has gotten loose on Arizona and still lost to Arizona because it is a team game. You need more than one player to go off.
And it's a sport that involves two sides of the ball.
Yes.
You say there's not going to be any slander. Kevin, I might throw a couple of shots his way. You can't defend a traffic cone, brother.
Shots are different than slander. You know what I mean?
I guess. His defense is despicable. It's part of the reason why Arkansas is so bad at defense. So, yeah, he's an unbelievable player and the type of player that I think, has such a ceiling on him that, like, could take down a team as good as Arizona. No question about it. But I also think that his flaws are a big part of the reason why Arizona might be able to get the job done. We're, of course, going to break down that matchup in a little bit here. I saw Cincinnati as well, Kevin, made the Calhoun hire official today. I think it was $3.7 million a year.
Good for him, man.
If I didn't see it, if I saw it correctly. Feels like a pretty big contract for a school like Cincinnati to be given out. But I think that that's a program that in a school that feels like they should have a good basketball program. I feel like, they have like a bit of a tradition with Oscar Robertson and with, Mick Cronin, who, obviously won like 5 tournament games there ever. So, I think that they're trying to make a leap back up into being competitive in college basketball. And so, yeah, I think 2 big hires in the Big 12 that we broke down all day yesterday. But, it changes the landscape in this conference for sure.
Yeah, it definitely changes that. Like as we were talking about yesterday, the middle rankings of this conference in a big way. And we saw what he was able to do with the Utah State side against Arizona. That is a very good coach. Glad to see him get that big check. Now, the transfer portal stuff is not over. Obviously, more players will be entering. I mean, there's probably 100 players that just entered since I started this sentence. But we do have 2 players that have been linked to Arizona in some way, even if it's just on social media. Jackson Shelstad, let's go ahead and start here. Oregon point guard, 3-year starter, appeared in 79 games for Oregon, started 77 of them. Had a frustrating year this year. He injured his hand in like a practice in September and then was playing against Omaha in December and completely broke the hand and was never full strength after that. Ended his season due to that injury. Damon, is he a Wildcat? Is Jackson Shelstad a Wildcat?
If you put a lot of stock into liking social media posts, yes, 100%. Chalk it up. The contract is signed because Jackson Shelstad liked a tweet from AZ Bandcat Sports talking about, I think it was like Player of the Year award or players at Arizona under Tommy Lloyd who have won their conference Player of the Year award. And Jackson Shelstad just gave that a little boop, like it. And I think that means it's a done deal, no?
I mean, I don't know if it means it's a done deal. I think it definitely means that there's some smoke maybe to this fire. I'm not necessarily going out and just liking, I don't know, Kennesaw State basketball, posts. I'm not interested in Kennesaw State basketball. I'm interested in Arizona basketball. So, yeah, it is interesting that he would like that post.
It's a little bit of a specific tweet to like. Like,
it
seems like maybe he sought it out or maybe he knows somebody pretty well and is friends with like a Jaden Bradley or something, and just wanted to show some support. But it certainly feels like there's been some smoke around Jackson Shelstad, and so he's a good player. We played him in the tournament last year, right? He was one of the guys that I think that Kevin and I were in our breakdown of Oregon, and in lead up to that game, it was like Biddle, Shelstad, 1-2 of the players that you really had to watch out for. Averaged 15.6, 2.9 rebounds, 4.9 assists, did so on 39.1% shooting this year, which is obviously not the greatest shooting percentage in the world, but he did see a little bit of a downtick in his three-point percentage this year, Kevin, at 31.4%, down from 37.9% from his sophomore campaign. And he shot 45% that sophomore year. So, yeah, a little bit of less efficiency from last year to this year, but nothing that I don't think could be fixed in a Tommy Lloyd system with better players around him being less of the focal point of a team. I do think, however, that this is very encouraging. This is a guy that went from 2.8 assists his freshman year, 2.7 assists his sophomore year, to 4.9 assists his junior year. Really had a big uptick in his playmaking ability this year, career high in scoring despite the slight inefficiency. So I think Jackson Shelstad should be absolutely on the short list of point guard candidates for Arizona next year. Obviously, doesn't seem as though the Cats are going the high school route for a point guard, because that guy would be either in the building or would be on the horizon of committing very, very soon, right? And that's not the case. So it seems that the Jaden Bradley replacement is going to be a transfer, and Jackson Shelstad, a guy who will have 1 year of eligibility remaining, definitely could be that piece as the transfer portal opens today, and he's already in it.
Yeah, let's look at what he's done during that 3-year stretch at Oregon. You already referenced some of these stats, but these are his overall career stats at Oregon. 13.5 points per game, 2.9 rebounds, 3 assists per game, 1.6 turnovers, about 44% from the field and 35% from three. I think what's most encouraging about a guy like Jackson Shelstad is the 3-year starter aspect of things, right? When you're bringing in a guy like Caleb Holt, when you're bringing in, obviously a bunch of new guys to next year's team, but also you're returning guys like Yvonne and hopefully Dwayne and maybe even Matthias Krivas, like next year's
hopefully
team.
Yvonne. I feel like you kind of made those backwards. Definitely
I did.
Dwayne,
I did make them
hopefully
backwards.
Yvonne, and hopefully Mo Krivas.
I did make them backwards.
Yeah.
But either way, hopefully all 3 of those guys return. And you're going to need some real veteran leadership on that squad. I know Krivas is going to have some, leadership qualities to him after playing so many years now if he returns. But it's always nice to have that packaged into a point guard, right? The ball handler, the guy that's going to facilitate the offense. And we've seen what Braden Burries being paired with Jaden Bradley this year was able to do for his development. Obviously, Braden Burries is an immense talent in his own right, but playing next to Jaden Bradley has allowed him to get going in ways that maybe he would not have done otherwise, specifically on the defensive side of things, and specifically as maybe a passer, right? Jaden Bradley has surely helped Braden Burries become more of a competent closer of games as well. So if you could pair Caleb Holt with a guy like Jackson Shelstad, who could kind of tell him, like, hey, man, I've seen this before. This is what you're going to see. Like, you're not having the blind leading the blind kind of way, right? You don't want a guy who's never been at this level learning from another guy who's never been at this level. I think if your shooting guard is a freshman, you got to have a veteran point guard, and I think that's what we could be seeing next year for Arizona. My next question to you, though, Damon, was going to be, and this goes for the chat as well. Make sure to leave a like, get involved in the conversation in the chat. We have some very nice chatters. They do not bite. But him or Isaiah Johnson? Isaiah Johnson, I do not believe yet has entered the portal. I think he is still, as of right now, a Colorado Buffalo without any question. But when I posted this to my Twitter, like, would you be interested in a Holt-Shelstad backcourt? I think about probably 40% of the people responding saying, maybe a little bit less than 40. But you get my point. There was a nice contingent of people saying, I like Shelstad, but I'd rather have Johnson for my money. Are you a Team Isaiah Johnson guy, a Team Jackson Shelstad guy, or give me the field kind of guy?
Let me ask you this, and I'll kind of throw back a question in your direction and see if this impacts like kind of how we think about this discussion. If Isaiah Johnson is an Arizona Wildcat, is he the type of prospect, player, etc., that he will make the jump to the NBA, or is he going to play out his college career similar to like how a Jaden Bradley did, how a Jackson Shelstad has? Because if we're talking getting 3 years of a player versus getting 1 year of a player, I think if it's a pretty equal playing ground here, I want the guy that's going to be here a little bit more long term. So I guess that, to me, my first question to Isaiah Johnson would be, what is your plan from a college career standpoint? What do you envision your college career looking like? And does that mean, multiple years at Arizona or just the one? Obviously, Kevin, you know me, Dwayne Wade over everything. Isaiah Johnson and his connection to Dwayne Wade matters to me more than, oxygen, water. I need that in an Arizona Wildcats uniform. I've already posted the Zach Galifianakis math gif of Bryce James is already on the team. We have LeBron's son. Dwayne Wade's godson. Is he on the way?
Yeah.
Is this are we recreating the Big Three Heat in live time, Kevin, through generations, passed down? Does Chris Bosh have a nephew that can hoop a little bit? Like, what are we doing? So I think for bias reasons, I like the Isaiah Johnson move a little bit more. I think Jackson Shelstad is maybe more of a pure point guard. Like, you saw that playmaking uptick that I already talked about and mentioned here on this pod. I do think that maybe that potentially fits what Arizona wants to do a bit better, but I think Isaiah Johnson is a more talented scorer and has a little bit of a higher upside. So personally, I might lean Johnson, but I think we're splitting hairs here. I think both guys are really good basketball players, and would be obviously not an upgrade on Jaden Bradley, but a big upgrade on what you currently have in the building.
I think so too, and I think it's an interesting idea. It's like it's just two directions, right? Which direction would you rather go in? The younger guy who has maybe more upside, or the older player who maybe is a little bit more steady and a little bit more ready to run your program there? For my purposes, I think I'd rather have Jackson Shelstad, and maybe that's crazy to me, but they're both about 6'1". It's not like there's a big size difference between the two. I do understand, and for the record, when I say that I'd rather have Jackson Shelstad, I'm not saying I don't want Isaiah Johnson on the team. I'm not saying I think Isaiah Johnson's a bum. I'm not saying I think Jackson Shelstad laps him. I'm not like
that's what I heard.
It's a close conversation for me between the two, but idealistically, for me, I would rather go Shelstad because he is a junior. He's a 3-year starter. You're going to have Caleb Holt. Everything I just outlined 2 minutes ago, copy-pasted here. I think, look, Isaiah Johnson is a hell of a talent, and maybe we could go after him next year. You know what I mean? But I do think that, like, I want a guy who is more comfortable taking back seat, right? Facilitating, letting Caleb Holt kind of do what he needs to do on the ball or off the ball, rather than a guy in Isaiah Johnson who I think that would be electric from a scoring perspective. But I feel like Caleb Holt's going to offer a ton of scoring next year. I really feel like he's going to come in and be a huge impact player game one. And so you want to pair him with a guy, in my opinion, who's a veteran, who is steady-handed, and has shown he can ride the ups and downs of a college basketball season and make it out the other side. Plus, he's been coached by Dana Altman, and I think there's a ton of respect between Tommy and Dana. And I think that, when you talk about, Randy Bennett coming to the Big 12, where in the West Coast Conference he was rivals with Mark Few, and now he's going to be rivals with Tommy Lloyd, right? It feels like there is a weird carryover from Few to Tommy, and I think that I'm mostly saying Shelstad probably would respond to Tommy's coaching style pretty damn well. I'm not too familiar with Tad Boyle's coaching style, so I'm not saying that Isaiah Johnson would not be receptive. I'm not saying any of that. But I just think Shelstad's a great fit. I think he is mature, and I think he plays more of the role that you're going to need the guard to play next year. Isaiah Johnson, if he ends up being Arizona's point guard next year, I'm all about it. I think he is a great player, huge upside. But if you're asking me to pick one, Damon, I'm going to pick Shelstad for those reasons. So where are you at?
Sam also mentions in here, in a good point and a good caveat, that Shelstad could potentially get a medical waiver and get a second year of eligibility, which for me does change the math a little bit. Like 2 years of a guy versus 3 years of a guy, potentially 2 if Isaiah Johnson leaves early or whatnot. I think that that is a factor for me. A big factor for me is the eligibility side of things of like. Because I honestly, like, I want Tommy Lloyd to get his hands on a player for a couple of years. Because to me, that's where we'll get the best out of these players. Tommy Lloyd is such a development-based coach. Look at a guy like Umar Ballo. I know it's a little bit more big man centric than guard centric, but like Umar was, he was unplayable when he first came to Arizona. Red shirts, becomes a multi-year starter and a really good player at that. Not my favorite center that we've had in the Tommy Lloyd era, but like, definitely an above average starter at the college basketball level. I think that those years of development under Tommy are extremely helpful to, kind of getting guys up to the speed of what Arizona basketball is doing, because as we talked about yesterday, no one's doing it better than Tommy Lloyd right now in hoops. So it's like, if you got to rise with the tide if you're a player that's being brought into this program, especially one that is expected to make an immediate impact and be a starting point guard for this team. So I think that Shelstad's floor might be a little bit higher, but Isaiah Johnson's ceiling is higher for me.
Now, another player that just entered the portal is one KJ Lewis. And now look, you guys know where this podcast stands. This is a KJ Lewis friendly podcast. I think KJ Lewis is one of my favorite players on last year's team, and a team that involved Caleb Love. As a St. Louis, and that feels crazy to say, but that's how much I loved and enjoyed watching KJ Lewis play for Arizona. Now, last year did not end the way that KJ or the team really would have preferred, right? Obviously, with some fans' reception to KJ's game, that when he exited, some people were happy. Some people like me and clearly Brian Edwards in the chat were like, damn, wish we could have got another year out of KJ. But he went on to Georgetown, got that bag, and this is what he did at Georgetown in 2025-2026. 14.9 points, 15 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 2.2 turnovers, 40% from the field, 30% from three. Now, this is like, I feel like a classic KJ Lewis stat line, because you got 2.2 turnovers a game, but he also averaged 2.1 steals a game, so he kind of evened that out for you. He gave you 2.5 assists, and he was the leading scorer on Georgetown. Now, that is a team that was not very good this past year. In fact, they were bad, but he was their leading scorer and their defensive anchor this year. Like I said, 2.1 steals per game, 14.9 points, 5.1 rebounds per game. The man was hooping this year in many games for Georgetown. He was also the only guy hooping in many games this year for Georgetown. He ranked 8th in scoring in the conference, 10th in free throw percentage in the conference, and 2nd in the conference in steals per game. Brian Edwards says it there in the chat. Loved his defense. Great on-ball defender. That is the KJ Lewis that we all know. He's also a little bit inconsistent on offense, right? Leaving some fans who like more consistent scores to not love KJ Lewis's game. Damon, he's in the portal. Would you welcome KJ Lewis back to Arizona, and in what role?
Kevin, walk with me for a second.
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Fine.
But you know that this is the biggest KJ Lewis podcast possibly in America.
Because why?
He's a dog, honestly.
He's a dog, honestly. And also because he watches this show from time to time.
True.
But KJ is, we both really like KJ. And that's not solely because we know that he's slightly tuned into what we're saying. It's also because we think that he's a winning basketball player, right? Even despite some of the deficiencies and some of the offensive shortfalls, right? Because he's still a good offensive player, I would argue. I think that wrist injury is doing a lot of heavy lifting in Arizona fans' memories of KJ Lewis. Like, Kevin, he shot 18% from three. Are we going to sit here and act like 18% from three is who he is as a shooter?
No,
because
we're literally not.
That would quite literally make him maybe the worst shooter in America. I'm not joking. Like 18% is that bad. But he shot 34% his freshman year at Arizona on lower volume. He shot 18% on around the same volume the next year with that wrist injury. And then he shot 30% on about double the volume at Georgetown in this 1 year that he's played at Georgetown. I think that, he is a low 30% type of three-point shooter in his heart of hearts. He's not the despicable sub 20% three-point shooter that, we got in last season of work. And he's a great defender. I think he's a great team guy. You saw the way he was, talking about and how he was tuned into our Arizona Media Day coverage out there on the floor at McHale because he cares about these guys. He still loves his teammates. Him and JB are close. The guys that he played with in this locker room are his friends. And he's not a guy who walked out the door, I don't think, on bad terms. I don't think this is going to happen, especially because Dwayne Aristote and Ivan Karchenkov are two guys that you're penciling into your starting lineup next year, and
Holmes,
it's a little bit of a similar like those are we're talking wings here. We're talking small forwards, right? And KJ Lewis is probably a shooting guard small forward. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but I absolutely would take KJ back if he wanted to come back and play probably a more suppressed role than what he did last year at Georgetown, which is why he went to Georgetown. So ultimately, I don't think that that's going to be the case. I don't think that will make really any sense for him because he left for opportunity, and is he going to come back to split playing time at two positions with Karchenkov and Aristote? I don't think so, but yeah, I absolutely would take KJ back in a heartbeat if he wanted to come back.
Man, I mean, Edgar Ortiz in the chat just absolutely just putting a dream into my mind. Imagine KJ, Yvonne, and Dwayne defending the wing. Would there be any points scored by the opponent?
Krivas comes back. He's playing center.
Oh, my God. Yo. Holt can defend too, man. Don't sleep.
I know, but I'm envisioning a world where it's like, hey, Caleb, we're going to take you off the court right now because we need a stop. And Caleb Holt, who, as you said, is a pretty good defender. You've talked about his defense a lot and his defensive mentality in particular. Seems like that, he values that side of the game and that side of the basketball. He doesn't even need to be on the floor in that scenario. You know what I mean? We got stoppers all over the place.
Out there.
We might win every game by, 30 points, but it's going to be 40-10. Who cares?
110%. Now, the thing with KJ Lewis potentially coming back is you outlined there, Damon. There isn't as clear of a fit for him on next year's team. You could argue that the way he plays and whatnot, you can kind of plug him wherever, but I don't think that that's how the staff thinks of it. I do think that this staff kind of has a regimented, all right, this guy does this guy does that. We have a couple guys that do this, you know what I mean? I don't necessarily think that KJ Lewis is coming back, right? But I would totally welcome him back, especially if he wanted to play a sixth man role, right? And imagine Tobe Awaka, 2025-26 sixth man of the year in the Big 12, KJ Lewis, 2026-27. You know what I mean? A sixth man of the year in the Big 12. It would be incredible, right, to see that. So, yes, I hope KJ does come back at a sixth man at a discounted price, as Steve on O-Side says in the chat. KJ off the bench. Let's go.
I mean, listen, do you want to be Tobe Awaka? That's the sell, right? Honestly, I mean, Tobe Awaka could be a starting center for 98% of college basketball teams. There's maybe 5-10 teams that you could count where Tobe Awaka is not the starting center for them. And yet he came off the bench, and there was never really rumors of him leaving to go to the portal for more opportunity. Won sixth man of the year in the Big 12 conference. Heaped praise all season long from guys like Fran Fraschilla who know basketball. Kevin and I call him the best rebounder we've ever seen, and I think we both mean that.
Behind Braden Burries.
Yeah, sure, behind Braden Burries. Grading on that curve, but Tobe Awaka is he's a winner, full stop, and he'll be remembered as a program legend until the rest of time because of what he sacrificed in way of money, playing time, etc. for that role, and the ultimate goal, which is to win basketball games at the highest level. So if KJ if there's any inkling of hey, I could maybe come back, what do you guys think? I'm sitting there and being let's sit Tobe down in a room with them and let's have Tobe sell him on what this role is. Hey man, we know you could go somewhere else and be the man. Do you want to maybe make the tournament, maybe be on a below 500 team, or do you want to win a damn national championship next year? And I guess that would be my pitch to KJ.
That's a pretty damn good pitch right there, Damon. If I'm KJ Lewis, I'm listening. But there are two aspects, and you could argue both sides of the coin for this one. I believe it was here in the chat. Yes, Bada Bing Crosby here saying KJ chasing the bag. And quite frankly, he does. He is an agent his agent is from Clutch. So you have both sides of that, right? You could be like, Arizona, kind of a Clutch program in a way. They have a lot of connections.
Kinda.
But I mean,
we're Clutch
obviously,
FC.
Yeah, we are Clutch FC. But you could argue that, but you could also argue Clutch is going to try to get the most value for their guy possible, especially when that Georgetown team was as bad as they were. They do not want KJ Lewis wasting away in Georgetown. So Whether he comes back to Arizona or not, I do think KJ Lewis is chasing that bag. Damon, we have a Sweet 16 matchup to talk about. Transfer portal, schmansfer portal. We're going to talk about Arizona versus Arkansas and what John Calipari had to say on Pat McAfee this morning. More on that after this. Leave a like, drink your water, don't go anywhere. If you or someone you know has been involved in an accident, unfortunately, where there was serious injury or wrongful death, you got to do your research after that type of accident because the lawyer you hire really does matter. It can kind of dictate what you get out of that situation, / if you can move on from that situation. Mark and Alexis Breyer are the husband and wife law team. When you do your research, you'll likely be directed back to them because they are the specialists in this field. And in the state of Arizona, the bar is only certified less than 1% of all lawyers and specialists in injury and wrongful death litigation. But you can trust that the husband and wife law team has the specialists on deck, and the attorney will always find a way to meet with you about your case. And when you do meet with your attorney in regards to your upcoming case, guess what? They're going to tell you the strengths and the weaknesses, so you're working with a full deck of cards, and I think that's a beautiful thing. And you may speak with one of them at any time about anything you want to discuss. If you want to tell them how cool Koa Pete is, I guess you can give them a call to do that too. But if you've had a serious injury, call the husband and wife law team first at 602-783-8841 or visit their website in our show notes below. Tell them the boys in the AZ Wildcats pod sent you over.
March is here. No one knows that better than the listeners of this podcast because, of course, March Madness is the time of the year for Arizona Wildcat fans. And, of course, if you're looking for a place to enjoy March Madness, there's no better place than Gila River Resorts and Casinos because they have their March matchups going on right now at their 4 Gila River Resort and Casino locations where you're courtside headquarters for every single game that matters. This isn't your average watch setup. We're talking premium seating, massive wall-to-wall screens, and a full Vegas-style atmosphere that puts you right in the middle of the action. Of course, there's a live sports book. You can go get that physical ticket in your hand as well. No better time to watch March Madness than over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. It's just the way that March is meant to be watched. So reserve your spot now and experience the tournament like never before, only at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Click the link in the description for more info and check out the Vegas residency that they have from now until the end of April at their 4 Gila River Resort and Casino locations.
Welcome on back into the AZ Wildcats podcast. If you have not left a like, you're not doing your damn part. And I need you to do your part. Pull your weight around here, okay?
Do your job.
I mean, literally. If
Cam
we're going to win
Newton
this game, you have to do your part. And you have to like this video. You got to do your job. All that cookies and stuff is cool, man. You were supposed to be our number 1 liker.
Took the AZ Wildcats podcast chat by storm. You're supposed to be our number 1.
Well, John Calipari is supposed to be the number 1 coach in the SEC right now, I suppose, based on, Todd Golden getting eliminated and him still standing. I was just trying to make a segue. But either way.
Is there any other SEC team in it?
No.
Alabama?
Oh, yeah, Bama. Yeah. Bama.
By way of getting drawn with the JT Toppinless Texas Tech squad, because if they played a real squad, I would not have been picking Alabama to be making it through to the Sweet 16. But that's the luck of the draw in the NCAA tournament, I guess. Like, could you imagine being Kansas? And you're sitting there and you're like, are you effing serious?
Yeah.
You guys gave us Big East champion St. John's, who won both the regular season and the conference tournament.
Oh, yeah, Texas.
And they have Rick Pitino as their frickin' head coach, who might be the greatest coach in the history of the game. And that's our matchup that we draw as a 4 seed. That's the 5 you're giving us. And meanwhile, you got Alabama out here drawing a team that it doesn't even have their best player that pretty much everyone knows is not going to have a chance of going on a deep tournament run. I mean, I'd be sick to my stomach, man.
Also, Texas technically, even though, like Tim says, it still feels weird to be like, SEC team? Texas. So there are some SEC teams in there, but yeah, John Calipari, I was trying to make my segue, got us sidetracked. He is one of the best coaches left in the tournament, no matter which way you feel about it. But he was on Pat McAfee this morning, Damon, and I thought initially when watching it was coming off the back of a Coach K segment. So I'm thinking, all right, we're not going to get too much here. I think Coach K said like one substantive thing during his hit. John Calipari was just letting the takes fly. He was feeling good this morning, flexing his watch as well. Classic Calipari, Damon. But he was on there talking about this matchup with Arizona. So let's start there. Coach Cal had this to say on Arizona. They're huge. They bully ball. They score it. We kind of foul the same, and he went on to say that the foul numbers and free throws should look somewhat similar in this game. I I might beg to differ, but they go and rebound. They're physical. We shoot the three better. The assists, the turnovers, we get more assists and less turnovers. And he went on to say this, which if you're not already fired up about this game, Damon, this will absolutely fire you up. He said, this will be someone's will against someone else's will. And I was like, all right, I'm already in, but now I'm even in further. Arizona's good and they're strong. It's a hard game to play. How do you feel about Cal's evaluation of this matchup? Kind of saying that they have the better assist to turnover stats. They also shoot it better than Arizona, but Arizona is just so damn tough. Do you agree, or do you have some things to say about that one?
I mean, I hear him, and I definitely think that, you know, what he's saying has some merit to it, right? Like, it's obviously Arizona is not a team that is going to light it up from the 3-point line typically. And, you know, you saw last game against Utah State, the Cats came out shooting pretty hot, Kevin.
Yeah.
And the threes were falling. And what did Tommy say when they got a sideline interview with them? I just think we were shooting too many 3-pointers in that first half. First response. So you know that's not the game plan for Arizona, and I think that's more what Cal is kind of harping on. And you know, you look at their 3-point distribution. You know, they're not the highest in that as well.
No.
Their 3-point attempts are, you know, pretty low. Like
their efficiency is high though.
Yeah, but so is Arizona's.
No, yeah, I wasn't disagreeing. I was just adding
no, I mean,
context.
I think it's interesting. Like almost like they're kind of in a similar way of like they're not shooting a ton of 3-pointers. You know, for ratio wise, but they do it at an efficient rate. They do it top 10 in the country at 38.7%, which is better than Arizona's. But maybe that's kind of the game plan. Maybe he's kind of foreshadowing what they're going to do, and that's try to beat Arizona with threes, right? Because they know that's not what Arizona's game plan is going to be. The assist to turnover ratio is extremely interesting in that, you know, like a guy like Darius Acuff typically is a turnover prone player. Right? Like, I mean, you would
like a player like him?
Yeah.
Okay,
a guy who controls the offense like that, a guy who like NBA style, it's like set screens for him. Let's get switches, clear out.
Freshman.
Exactly. But it's incredibly impressive how, you know, efficient and safe they are with the basketball in that regard. So, you know, that's another category where they have an advantage, I guess, on the offensive side, but conversely, their defense does nothing in terms of forcing turnovers, which is the big flaw with Arkansas. And you didn't hear Coach Calipari talking about their defense in that interview, Kevin.
No.
He didn't mention defense for 1 second.
I'll say this, and you'll appreciate this. They did ask him about like Darius Acuff's like draft evaluation in a way, right? And he was saying like, you know, all these people want to talk about Darius's defense. He can defend now. And instead of being like, here are the ways in which I think he can defend an opponent. He's really strong this way. He's really strong that way. He was just like, he'll tell you what his opponent's field goal percentage was. And I'm like, he'll be like, he'll come to me and be like, Coach, I told you he shot 1 for 8. And I'm like, okay, he's clearly a competitor. And I do think that Acuff's defense is slightly better than like the consensus does. I do think that. I'm not saying he's out. I'm not saying he's a stopper. I'm not saying he's a high level defender. I'm not even saying he's a plus defender. But I do think he's slightly better than like you know, ADO last year, for example, right? You know what I mean? Where you literally can't have him out there. I think Acuff is a little bit better than that, right? But still not strong defensively. But if you ask Cal, he can tell you what the percentage of the guy he defended was, which makes him elite, I guess. But yeah, I just thought that was funny. Hey, I don't know where he's good at defense, but he knows the stats. All right.
He keeps track of how many buckets get hit on him over the course of a basketball game, which I guess means that he's paying attention on defense, which is, I mean, that's half the battle, like, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it was a lot of, from a Cal perspective, like he's like, we have a better, assist to turnover ratio than any team in the country. True. We shoot it a little bit better than Arizona. Percentage wise, that's true. But again, like half of basketball is defense, and he's not really talking a whole lot of defense when he's talking up his team on that interview, and for good reason, Kevin, because this Arkansas defense is quite bad. And yeah, I mean, that's going to be the real true definer of this game is what does that look like when you match up an elite Arizona offense or defense versus an elite Arkansas offense, and then an elite Arizona offense versus a pretty non-existent Arkansas defense. Like, is that what puts Arizona over the top I think that's what gives me and you confidence that Arizona is going to win this basketball game. But as far as what Cal's saying, like, I think Arkansas has to go toe-to-toe with Arizona offensively to win this one. I think that's obvious. And so maybe Cal is saying from it's about what team is going to impose their will, because it's about whether or not Arkansas is going to make shots and just be undeniable on the offensive side of the floor, so much so that it suppresses the need for the defense to really even be that good because their offense is that elite.
Yeah, and I think the thing about Arkansas that really worries me and concerns me is that in a one-game tournament scenario, right? Like, this is a team that I think actually can put together a defensive performance that is good enough to upset in Arizona. I'm not going to predict that. Spoiler alert for our pregame show coming up on Thursday. I'm predicting an Arizona win, but they have some really strong athletes on that team, man. Like, they don't have a deep rotation because of some injury concerns they have going on right now, specifically with Pringle and Knox. Mm-hmm. But when they're a full 8-man rotation, that is a hell of a roster that they got going on over there, right? And we're going to talk about 3 guys that I think Arizona fans should watch out for coming up into this game. But let's continue with these Cal quotes, Damon, as we go through. We're talking about Coach Cal, and we're talking about the defense of Arkansas. Let Cal tell it. If he has to coach in this game, specifically their defense, they ain't winning. He said, if I have to be anything other than a cheerleader in this game, we ain't winning. And I see, he's trying to do his let's go team there on the left. Let's get a little bit rowdy, ROWDY. But
what do you – when he said that, Kevin, I was like – I kind of raised my eyebrows a little bit. What do you think he means by this?
I felt like when I was watching the interview, like when I put it on social media, it was like, so there was one person that was like, what does he even mean? Like, they were like, saying how dumb it was. I was like, in context, it felt pretty clear. He was just saying, hey, if I have to really put my coaching hat on in this game against Arizona, we're probably getting our ass whooped, and I'm having to make adjustments left and right, and I'm having to plug holes that I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I'm in the sinking boat and plugging holes.
It kind of almost strikes me as like we need a miracle a little bit. Like, we need to play our best game of the season where I don't need to do anything because Darius Acuff, everything that he's putting up is going in the basket.
I guess you could read it that way. It didn't come off that way to me. I felt like he was doing his, like, I'm a player's coach kind of thing. Because then after that, he went right into, like, these guys have to believe. And if I'm doing anything more than being like, you got it, keep playing, keep shooting, that means we have bigger problems than, okay, our shots aren't falling, or okay, this isn't working. Like, if I have to really coach you in this game, we've had 40. Like, I think it was kind of just him saying, like, this should be when we go out and play our game and enjoy it and let that carry us. And if I have to really make some crazy adjustments, then we've had some issues in the way that, because he goes on to say later, I don't think I included it in any of the graphics because the quote was too long, but I think he was kind of he said that they're going into the game saying, we got this. We believe in ourselves. We're going to play our game. Arizona can do what they want to do. We're going to play Arkansas basketball and see if our best is good enough. So I think he's saying, if I have to go into this game, coach, adjust, change the way we're coming into it, something has gone drastically wrong with our approach, and that's a problem. I do think it sounded kind of funny, but I don't think he meant it the way that maybe it came off,
I may have misspoken a little bit because I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that's what he meant by it, but I'm telling you like what it comes off as. So I like what you said at the end there. I think that it comes off as, yeah, we need to go out there and, shoot 45% from 3, and Darius needs to play his best game of the season. And, if I have to make an adjustment, that game over. And you're like, what?
Did sound crazy.
Kind of an insane thing to say before a basketball game starts. I hear what he's saying. Like, we want to play, like, as you said, like our game. We want to play Arkansas's game. And that's, I think, his main point. But, give me, it feels like their avenue for winning is a lot less than Arizona's when he says stuff like that. Like, they have a very round hole size peg that they have to fit in to be like, if we're going to win, it needs to fit exactly right. Yeah. Whereas Arizona's, their keyhole is this big, and it doesn't matter what the shape is. Give me anything. It should fit through the keyhole because this team can win in so many different fashions, right? Like, they can win the barn burner type of offensive game. They can win a grinded out defensive matchup with Houston And it feels like Coach Calipari is almost saying, like, we can win in one way. And that's our way that we know how to win. And we're going to play our game that way. Whereas Arizona is like, it's like a chameleon team that's like, what's our environment look like?
Yeah,
we'll mold to exactly look like that.
I think so too, and I think that's why they're preparing in the way that they are, right? They know Arizona. You can't beat Arizona by switching things up at this point in the year. You're going to have to double down on what's gotten you here, which is Darius Acuff, Meleek Thomas, and Billy Richmond. And I guess Trevon Brazile as well. But you get my point, right? You're going to have to double down on the guys that have got you here, the strategies that have got you here, and not switch it up in the biggest moment, even if you are a big underdog. And I think they know that, and that's kind of why they're going with this approach. Now, last couple quotes on the Cal side of things. I thought this was pretty cool because he was very complimentary of what Arizona's been able to do this year. He said, after he talked about his players, and before I read this quote, he did do a little bit of flexing. And if you are going to be as successful as John Calipari, don't let me stop you from flexing. He was on Pat McAfee saying, he was asked with like how he balances certain things with being, so many guys in the NBA and the expectations and blah, blah, blah. He was saying like, hey, man, the guys that have made it to the NBA from my teams, $6 billion in contracts. I've had 12 guys go for 50 in the NBA. Like, he was talking his stuff. And then he said that these guys on this team, they're going to be in the NBA because they deserve to be. He's talking about Acuff, Meleek, Billy Richmond, those guys. Now they've got now they've got the challenge of their lives with Arizona. Tommy's done an unbelievable job with this team. Probably going to have to make adjustments as the game unfolds. And that's kind of why, Damon, I was saying, I don't think he meant the earlier quote as it sounded, because here he is saying, I'm probably going to have to do some coaching. I'm probably going to have to make some adjustments as the game goes on because of the way Arizona plays, because of how tough that they are. So he knows he's going to have to do some coaching. But if he's saying that, if he has to do anything more than that, then they're probably getting their butts whooped. But I love that he says this team has the challenge of their lives in Arizona. Tommy's done an unbelievable job with this Arizona squad. Very, very complimentary. Anything else on what Cal's had to say this morning on McAfee, Damon?
Not really. I mean, I think that was the crux of it. And, there was a portion when he talked about, if I need to coach, we're going to be in trouble, essentially, where he was like biting his hand.
Yeah, that was funny.
Which was funny. Cal is just like, he's kind of a unique guy. I feel like most college coaches, I think, come off a little bit more curmudgeon and kind of like hardened on the outside. And he's very much like, you could tell he's kind of a goofball, Yeah. I go ahead. I like Coach Calipari. Did you know Coach Cal was, he recommended Sean Miller to Arizona back in the day, Kevin?
I did not know that.
So the story goes essentially, he was not coaching anywhere yet because Kentucky and Arizona were both looking for a coach at that cycle, at that time period. And Arizona went after Coach Cal, and just because he's the best. At the time, he was the best coach in America, following like the Memphis stuff. And it was he ended up going to Kentucky naturally, but he gave Arizona a recommendation for their next coach and ended up being a pretty good one.
Yeah, indeed. Now, I have one more thing or two more things before we wrap up the show. I want to talk a little bit of Acuff. I want to talk a little bit about the slept-on Arkansas guys that might catch us in this game. Hopefully not, though. But before we get to that, we have something very special to do here today, and that is our Die Hard shout-out of the month. That deserves an air horn. Now, if you don't know, our Die Hard program here, you can pay a certain number of amount. You can pay for, depending upon when you get the sale and things like that. But it's a yearly membership. Our Die Hards, we're in the Discord talking every day. They get exclusive content. And once a month, we shout out a very special Die Hard. And this month, it is no other than Anthony Moreno. Braden Burries, what do you think about Mr. Moreno?
He's a dog, honestly.
Yeah, I think the same exact thing. Me and Braden are of one mind. Die Hard spotlight for today is you, Anthony. His favorite team is the Arizona Wildcats. Favorite athlete, Robert Gronkowski. I mean, great taste. He's been a Die Hard for a year, and he's from Tucson, Arizona. Now, I wanted to thank Anthony for being in the Discord.
Absolutely.
Because we are trying to foster that community in the Discord. We're doing a pretty good job building it over there. And he drops all types of chats. This one I grabbed from a couple months ago in the Discord. I thought Damon would like it. You're missing out on stuff like this from our guy Anthony in the Discord, who dropped this Facebook meme that said, imagine if AJ DeBonsa had 7 other NBA guys around him, like JB has at Arizona. BYU would have the best college team ever assembled, Damon. It means everything. Shout out to you, Anthony. Love all our diehards, but especially you today. One more air horn for you, Anthony.
My guy Anthony, who oftentimes is here in the chat as well, but definitely resides in that diehard Discord very, very often. So you guys need to go be a part of it yourselves. Like Kevin said, trying to foster that community, trying to grow that community over there. And we've done a pretty good job in doing so, but we definitely need some more voices and some more faces in there. Our guy 3DMK, who's not present right now, we marked him down as absent on our class list. But
that's awesome.
He is the man in the Discord, and definitely is providing some really, really cool stuff for other Arizona Wildcats fans out there that want to see maybe some more analytical breakdowns. Things that the guys like 3DMK, the brainiacs have that maybe the simpletons like Damon Fairall do not. So. Get in on that Discord. Appreciate everybody who is a part of our diehard community. Anthony, a diehard for quite a while now, over a year. We appreciate you, my guy.
Much love for our diehards and much love for this Arizona versus Arkansas matchup. And before we get to the 3 players that I think we really need to have our eyes on outside of, Acuff and Meleek Thomas, Damon, I wanted to talk a little bit about Darius Acuff being in the news today, man, because I've been loud on this podcast for 2 weeks now, that if we could avoid celebrity Darius Acuff, who's, Allen Iverson's boy, if we could avoid that whole storyline until after this tournament, that'd be wonderful. And it's almost like Reebok heard me and said, you know what, Kevin? I hate you. Here's the Acuff 1. It's on the way. Here's Allen Iverson calling Darius Acuff the next him in a Reebok ad. And it's just like they're building the company around a guy who's going to lose to Arizona in the Sweet 16. That is what I need to happen. I don't need this to be like, oh, do you remember when they dropped the Acuff 1s and then Darius Acuff went on this run in the tournament? No. I need these shoes to get pushed back, damn it. But yeah, it's pretty cool that he's getting the Acuff 1, but I don't need this marketing push right now. It's too many good vibes for Darius Acuff. I need less good vibes for Darius Acuff, man.
Kevin, do you happen to know how far Allen Iverson made it to the tournament in his freshman season at Georgetown?
Would it be the Sweet 16?
It just so happened to be the Sweet 16 when they lost to North Carolina in that first round of that Big 12 tournament, or in that Sweet 16 round of that NCAA tournament, I should say. And that North Carolina team, Kevin, was a 1 seed. Just saying. I know the vibes around Darius Acuff are with the Reebok stuff is fantastic. Of like, hey, this guy's him. He's a superstar. Everyone buy in. This is the making of a movie script right now.
I'm so bad.
But Allen Iverson, the guy that they're saying he's the next version of, lost to a 1 seed in the Sweet 16 of his NCAA tournament career.
I mean, I was out.
Coincidence?
I was out. And now I'm right back in, Damon. Actually give the man the shoe. Give him the shoe tomorrow. Let him debut it in the game. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, excuse me, getting choked up about this Sweet 16 matchup. But we do have some players in Arkansas that I think are a little bit more slept on. And I do want to talk about those players after our second and final break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. So leave a like, stick around, drink your water, and do not go anywhere. I will be upset if you do. Damon, there's a lot of time between now and Arizona's matchup in the Sweet 16 with Arkansas. And you know what I might have to dip into until then? Some pure edibles. I might have to get on the couch, take some pure edibles, throw on a dinosaur documentary that people are watching a lot on Netflix right now, and just have a hell of a good time. Because Pure Edibles is a Freedom State-founded company from right here in Arizona, and they're available in over 130 dispensaries statewide. So I could probably go pick some up on the way home if I really wanted to. And if I wanted to go to sleep after the dinosaur movie, I might throw some berry sleepy kicks in there as well. But it's not just sleep edibles. They have every type of vibe clearly listed on the outside of their can, so you know whether you're getting into some energized, some sleep vibes, some balanced hybrid there. But you also have CBN, CBG, CBD, and marijuana-derived THC in their products. And it's everything from gummies, kicks, chews, and hard candies. Go find yourself some pure edibles from one of the over 130 dispensaries that dispense them.
Just upgrading and uplifting every aspect of life, Kevin, our friends at Pure Edibles. And of course, if you're in needing of an upgrade in your life, Window Depot is the only place to call. Guys, they're a home renovation store, but they do so much more than just windows. You see Window Depot, you think, man, that must be just a great window store. I mean, you'd be correct in saying that, but they also have flooring, all different types of skylights, doors, countertops, cabinets, and more, sinks as well, in stock and ready to pick up. Does not require a subscription. That's why contractors and homeowners alike absolutely love the Window Depot, because you can check out their stock on the website, go pick up that exact same day at one of their 7 Arizona locations, a company that was started in Tucson but has now since kind of made its way up to Phoenix, in Marana, in Chandler as well. There is a location for you guys. Just check it out for yourself, the Window Depot, one of those 7 locations, and figure out why contractors and homeowners alike are absolutely obsessed with the Window Depot. The Window Depot, more than just a window store. Visit thewindowdepot.com and get started on your next project today. Stop in and give the Window Depot a call. Their team will help you get exactly what you need. We got information right now that Koa Pete is doing Wendy's drive-through content where he's being filmed and handing out fast food items to people wearing a Wendy's shirt. Kevin, not happy about that, considering the meme potential for our opponents. If Koa Pete has a poor performance.
But he won't, so it won't matter.
Maybe the bag is just like...
Oh, it's got to be crazy.
The bag supersedes
the
potential for bad meme content, or maybe Koa is that confident in his own abilities that he's like, guys, it's not going to be a problem. I'm him. Don't worry about it.
100% that's what it is. But I'll say this much. As a guy with like normal level of, maybe even below average level of self-confidence, I'm not like some invincible athlete level of self-confidence where it's like, oh, I've missed how many jumpers in a row? The next one's going to fall. It's like, dude, science tells me otherwise, brother. Like, you know what I mean? I'm that kind of guy where it's like, what's the logic telling me in relation to my success? But if I was an athlete, dude, no way I'm stepping anywhere near. I'm not even in the same zip code as the kitchen of a drive-through, dude. You're not going to film me at no drive-through so that when I have my next down game, it's like Kevin Thomas facing an elite defense. Fries in the bag, bro. Fries in the bag, bro. It's why I did the AJ DeBonsa, even though I felt like it was so nasty to use the AJ DeBonsa in the McDonald's video. I didn't even use it. I used a different video, right? It feels so nasty to be like, man, this guy stinks so bad he's gonna be flipping burgers soon. You know what I mean? Can't have it. Can't have it.
With that AJ one, we could have been like what AJ DeBonsa's teammates are going to be doing in 6 months' time. Maybe that one would have been a good one. You could possibly say AJ DeBonsa when he's not surrounded by 4 NBA All-Stars at every position on the floor. That's also a solid one. I'm throwing stuff out at the wall here. If you need BYU rage baiting takes for Twitter, for social media to get the people fired up, I am your man. I declared myself, Kevin, on the D-back spot earlier today, the chief trolling officer of PHNX Sports. I think it's fair.
I like it. I do like that.
CTO.
The CTO. And now we do have some HOGs to talk about, Damon. Some Hogs to discuss. There are 3 other players outside of Darius Acuff and Trevon Brazile and, Meleek Thomas, and as well as DJ Wagner. Those are the 3 players that I think people know the most about, right? There are 3 other guys, these other guys, the others to watch for versus
the
Arkansas.
other guys.
The other guys.
Oh, my God.
Dude, we should make that a movie. Anyway, Billy Richmond III had some clutch steals against High Point to help them escape a huge upset in that one. He has 11 points per game this year, 4.3 rebounds, almost 2 steals plus blocks per game. I think that these 3 players, Malik Ewan, his 10 points a game, his almost 6 rebounds, his almost 2 steals plus blocks per game, his role could be huge in this one, in my opinion, specifically. And now this is the biggest player to watch out for, in my opinion, in terms of the others. And let me explain. It's Nick Pringle, who only averages 4.6 points, only averages 4 rebounds, and less than a steal and a block combined per game. Kevin, why should we be watching out for Nick Pringle? It's because I don't think Carter Knox is going to play in this game, man. He's been out since January with a meniscus injury. I know that this is all or nothing time, but like that's a kid that was projected in like I think the first round, heading into this season. I might be wrong on that. Fact check me, Tim, in the chat. But like Carter Knox, like he is a high quality player out with the meniscus. I don't think he's back for this game. There's rumors that he might be trying to, get back into this game. I don't think that happens. The guy that might come back for this game, though, is Nick Pringle, who has been able to play for most of the season, but has not played since their Vanderbilt game as he has been out with a leg injury. Now, the reason I think Nick Pringle is a player you got to watch out for in this game, because if his name is on the availability report as out, Arizona is going up against a team that has a 6-man rotation. Arizona has an 8-man rotation. 8 guys, depending upon how you feel about Dwayne Aristode, that could start in a lot of places. If you have a 6-man rotation against a team as big, physical, well-conditioned as Arizona, you're going to need magic from Acuff and Thomas, which is possible, but you're going to need magic, as well as Richmond, as well as Ewan. But you're going to need some real magic there. If Pringle plays, you can at least pretty much go guy for guy with Arizona from a rotational standpoint. Keep your bigs fresh. Maybe if you can keep them out of foul trouble, things can go differently for Arkansas. But if Pringle doesn't play, he was close to playing against High Point. I think he said he was like 6 out of 10. I think I had the quote in the rundown somewhere. But I think, he said I'm about a 6 out of 10 right now, probably playing wise. I'm not sure. And that was tomorrow before High Point. So that was the day before the High Point game. Sorry, I had to do the thing in my head. But so I feel like he's probably close to returning for this game. But like Tim says, if it becomes about conditioning and if they have a 6-man rotation, Arkansas genuinely, it's going to be, I don't want to say impossible because that's crazy to say, but it's going to be an extreme uphill battle with 6 dudes against this Arizona team. You need Nick Pringle. So those are my 3 guys you got to watch out for. Billy Richmond, who can really kind of be that like Swiss Army knife kind of player for them. Malik Ewan, who can hit the boards hard. We're talking 2 double-doubles to start March for him, 3 double-doubles in his last 4 games. And then Nick Pringle. If he can play, they have a little bit more depth to compete with Arizona. If he can't, Arizona's got the huge advantage there.
Yeah, I think all, very important factors here. They do have some size, and it's not maybe the Mo Krivas type of size, but they got, with Ewan, Pringle, and Brazil, 3 dudes who are 6'10" and have some weight to them as well. Like they're not, like skinny, 6'8", 200-pound guys like Long Island is throwing out there against Mo Krivas. Like these guys are legitimately really, solid defenders as well. Brian Edwards here in the chat drops a little nugget for us. Trevin Brazil has more threes hit than ADO while shooting 30 less attempts. And as he's been saying all throughout the week, that he thinks that the key to this game is Brazil taking Mo Krivas out of the paint, opening up that paint for a guy like Darius Acuff, for a guy like Meleek Thomas, and kind of just using that spacing aspect that Arkansas's best big man has to take the best interior defender in college basketball somewhat out of his element, which I think will be a very big key as well to watch out for, and a great little nugget there from our guy Brian Edwards.
One more little nugget here on the depth side of things for Arkansas. Cal this morning on McAfee said this as well. Did not make a graphic, so I'm just going to have to read it, listen to my voice. Quote, "We're going to need a few more guys because they play a lot of people. We may need a few more guys out there." So I do think that Calipari has an understanding that if we can't get Pringle back, if they can't get Knox back for this game, that they're going to have to really, really stretch out that rotation and find a way to make it work.
If Pringle was 6 out of 10 for High Point, I think he's going.
I would assume so, yeah. You just never know.
Because they know that this is going to take every single piece of effort they have to take down a team as good as Arizona and as balanced as Arizona. And so I think that's where you kind of that's one where you unload the clip a little bit. Like if he's 8 out of 10 now after another week, like, yeah, man, I know it's not 100%, but your 80% is better than not having that rotational player out there on the floor. So I think that we're going to be seeing Pringle going for sure.
I would, if you made me bet on it, I would bet he plays too as well. Damon, last thing before we get out of here is I do agree with Brian Edwards. I think Trevon Brazil is an incredibly fun player. I also think he's really become kind of underrated at Arkansas. Like, right, we talk about it with Shane actually all the time, producer Shane, about how fun Trevon Brazil's game is. And Calipari also spoke about that. And then one last quote graphic before we get out of here. We did not discuss this in relation to Darius Acuff, but I thought it was just an interesting little view into maybe the draft coming up, because there's a lot of discussion in terms of, oh, Darren Peterson, oh, Caleb Wilson, is he in that top 4 conversation? Some people are starting to toss Darius Acuff into that conversation, and they're going to probably be listening to Calipari say this. He's a gym rat, loves the game, nothing else matters to him. And now he went on to tell a story about, and this is why I'm telling you this, Damon. I thought you might find this interesting. He goes on to tell a story about how when Darius Acuff had that ankle injury a couple weeks back, and Arkansas went up to, which game was it? I think they played Alabama and lost. I'm fact-checking it real quick. But they played a team, they lost with Darius Acuff, right, missing from that game. And then he goes back, talks to Cal. Cal's in his office, and Acuff walks in. Cal's like, hey, man, I have a tough decision for you. It's the Alabama loss or the loss in double overtime. That's what it was. I have a tough decision for you, man. Like, you're going to sit out for the Mizzou game. You got to sit out. I need you 100% for this upcoming tournament run. Acuff looks at him, goes, Coach, we just lost. I'm playing. And then walks out of his office. And I'm like, man, to do that as a freshman, going to John Calipari's office, and he's calling you in there, and he's like, Damon, I need you to sit down for the next game. And Damon looks at Coach Cal and goes, yeah, bump that. I'm playing. Forget all that noise. I love that. I do love that. And we know that he's a dog. And so, yeah, I'm just excited for this matchup, man. This is the stuff that March Madness is for. Real stars going up against real stars. And I'm all about it. We got to shut that dude down.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt about it. I mean, I think I made this comparison before, but like, to me, this game could look a lot like what the Duke-Arizona Sweet 16 game looked like last year, where you just had a team that was clearly much more complete, clearly had the more physical players, the more athleticism on their side, and could get it done with a collection of different players. And in that game, Arizona couldn't defend Duke whatsoever. Like, there was essentially nothing the Wildcats could do adjustment wise to do better at providing a hurdle for Duke when trying to score. That's why they put up 100 points. And it took a Caleb Love masterclass to make it a 7-point basketball game. And Arizona still ended up losing. I think even if Darius Acuff goes off, like, it's going to take a huge effort out of Arkansas to get this one done. Someone up here asked a question about, it was Edgar, who asked about the press, Kevin, and I wanted to ask you about that real quick before we get on out of here, because I said on the postgame show with Saul, when we brought Saul on from San Diego on the last one, that like, after watching that performance, every other coach in this tournament has to be kind of licking their chops thinking, man, we're going to press Arizona, right? But I almost think that Arizona escapes a little bit with Arkansas in that they do have a little bit of a short rotation like you're talking about. Coach Calipari is talking about, like, yeah, we're going to need more guys, because he knows that rotation versus as deep of a team as Arizona is going to be a really, really tough thing to ask for. And then on top of that, Arkansas is just straight up not good at defense. So do you think that we are going to see them press? Do you think that that's just something that they don't really have in their DNA, that they don't really have in their bag? And Coach Cal is literally saying, we're going to play our game, so that's not going to be a thing that happens? Because I do think that hurts them a lot if you're not able to kind of put that pressure on Arizona.
I'm sure we'll see them press, but like you said, like, if I'm Cal, I'm not trying to tire out my dudes over the course of 40 minutes pressing if I think that we can stop them in any other way.
Yeah.
Right? Because you cannot risk, like, a silly reach-in from an Acuff, right, on a press that now he picks up a foul and maybe you get a ticky-tack and now he's got 2, and all of a sudden you're really in deep trouble if you're John Calipari. So I do think that they might press a little bit if they get behind or whatnot, but I think this is a team that's going to try to play their brand of basketball that they played all year to a 100 percentile level, right? So I don't think we see too much of it, but I do think we'll see some defensive wrinkles from Arkansas that ordinarily you might not from them.
Yeah. Tim, I know I just said this, but I kind of disagree with you. I think if Arkansas scores 80, Arizona wins. I think it's going to take a better outing than that, personally. I think it's going to take one of those offensive performances that you look back on and say, like, that was one of the best in Arkansas basketball history. Because if it's 80 points, I think Arizona puts up 90. Because I don't see how Arizona's getting stopped by Arkansas, frankly. I personally, I don't think 80 points is enough. But I don't know how you feel about that, Kevin.
No, I think I agree with you. It'd be hard for me to see like Arizona getting stopped that much by Arkansas's defense, at least over the course of the full 40. I could see a couple stretches where like Brazil's being disruptive and they put together some connected possessions and
this team missed a ton of layups against Utah
Yes.
State. Like if they do that again, I guess it is entirely possible. But now you're banking on 2 games in a row of Arizona missing like 20 layups at the rim against Arizona or against Utah State like they did. And I don't know how realistic that is.
Yeah, and in addition to that, like it's a tournament game, things are tighter. Like I just think that this is a hard thing for Arkansas to do, to be like, we're gonna run it up against Arizona. I don't know how easy that is, especially with how competent Arizona is in transition as well. But Damon, we have so much more basketball to talk between now and Thursday. I just dropped a preview for this matchup, so if you want more of my thoughts specifically on the matchup, 5 minutes of that on our YouTube channel. Go check it out. Leave a like as well. Like today's episode of the AZ Wildcats podcast, over 100 people, only 42 likes. I need way more likes than that out of you guys. Thank you for the support of this pod, for the support of everything me and Damon do, and most importantly, for your support of the Arizona Wildcats, and I guess, Tim, your support of the Arkansas Razorbacks. But, Damon, anything else before we get on out of here? Oh, my God, wait. Before we get out of here, we got to give a big shout-out to Max, who says Die Hard mode has been activated. Ooh. I'm going to have to lock my Discord account if I start drinking or it could be trouble. Play that boy his air horn.
Kevin, what is Max?
Oh, well, I mean, you don't need me. You need Braden Burries.
He's a dog, honestly.
He's a dog.
He's honestly. A dog,
simple.
Honestly.
Just nice and simple. My dog.
He's
Max.
a diehard, honestly. But yeah, thank you, Max. Thank you for supporting our show. Thank you for supporting PHNX Sports. Damon, do you got anything else for us before we get on out of here today?
No, not really. We got one more day of coverage tomorrow on a Wednesday, right here on this very same channel at PHNX Sports, where we'll be previewing Arizona versus Arkansas and talking all the little details in college basketball in between any transfer portal entries, any news that regards around new Big 12 coaches. Kevin and I got some thoughts and we got some takes to let fly on this podcast at 2 p.m. every single day. Drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel. We'll be back on Thursday for pregame, watch along, post-game coverage of Arizona versus Arkansas in the Sweet 16, and we cannot wait for it. But until then, peace out. Bear down.
And go Cats. McHale Madness tonight, 7 p.m. Tap in. Me, Saul, Corey, breaking it down.
We all silly like the mayor.